Get started, I'd like to make a couple of announcements. For those of you that attend Don Beck's sessions, Don will not be presenting next weekend, and neither will we, because that is the Color Lab convention, and there's a lot of people that want to attend that, and there's a number of people that tune in. So just out of deference to that, we're not going to do that. And I am not going to be going for the Easter weekend. I'm actually going to take 2 weekends off. So this will be our last session until the 24th of April. So the next 2 weeks, there will be no session. As always, I want to say thank you very, very much to Mark. Mark has been working very diligently behind the scenes, making sure that things are grabbed, put up there, the paperwork, the copies of the texts that go with the videos and marrying them all together are there. We've had a lot of really positive comments from callers and from associations that it's really nice to have these videos, but also to have a copy of the presentation and a copy of the notes to actually go through at our own pace and work with. And that is a positive thing. That's what these sessions are about, is development. And although it's geared for new caller training, to take a step back at all these little pieces and expand them so that we can look at them rather than being fed with a fire hose. There's a lot of material here that is designed for new callers, for journeyman callers, for experienced callers, and for those callers that are mentoring other callers. And if you have any suggestions, comments, queries, or things that you would like to see or presenters you'd like to hear from, please let us know, because we want to fill those answers that you have questions for. So, and I want to especially say thank you to everybody for coming out, spending your time, especially on days like today where it's ranging between 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, depending on where you are in the world. So thank you very much. Today's session is geared of making the most of boxes. So I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Is that up?
Not yet.
That didn't come up? Okay.
Not this time. There you go.
Okay, so that's up and running, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you have any questions, by all means, chime in, because I can't see you when I've got this up on the screen, or put something in the chat for Mark. Mark will collect the questions. And before we open it up for discussion, we'll deal with any questions that come into the chat. Okay, so in the past, we've looked at two-couple calling, and we did all the math, we went through all the calculations, and although it's like 80 something, but it's pretty much 90% of the entire basic and mainstream program can be done with two couples. Now, we know this. What we're going to be looking at tonight is two couples, like two-couple dancing in the form of isolated sight, but a limitation on what we've taught on isolated sight. Two modules, and those are box modules, and one movement, which is couple circulate. And with just those 3 things, or 5 things if you count each, you'd be surprised at how much variety that a new caller can put out on the floor and still maintain total control of the dancers. A lot of it has to do with working back and forth, up and down across the grid. In fact, all of it has to do with that. And that's the basic foundation that you need to build before you get into sight calling. This is taking isolated sight or two-couple calling and adding it into your repertoire. So we're going to take a step back from what we learned, and we're going to add to that so that new callers can build, or caller coaches and senior callers can assist new callers in developing those skills. Okay, so as I said, pretty much 90% of all the basic and mainstream dancing can be done with two couples. Now, if you accept that two couples, two facing couples is a box, if you just accept that premise, if you've got one couple facing another couple, that's a box. If they're in a mini wave, or if they're in an ocean wave, or any of that, it's still the same basic group of 4 people working out of that initial box. If you take them from that start point back to that start point, everything that's done is working within the box. So accept that premise that working through couples through various amounts of movement, shapes, partner changes, and everything else without changing those people involved in that group of 4 is a box. Two-couple calling, isolated sight, is just that. It's two couple movements done in either a Sicilian circle or a contra setup, which are both fabulous teaching tools for callers to improve their formation management with the groups, to improve their movement mechanics, to improve their timing, and all their calling skills of moving dancers around within a group. And it's also great for dancers to really understand the principles of position and place within a group of four. And most of the four couple movements that are out there can be fudged or danced when doing two couple dancing, especially in a Sicilian circle or a contra type setup. For instance, this little circle here on the right, if I did a veer to the left and look at the couple ahead of you, I could easily call everybody do the in-facing part of a Ferris wheel or do the out-facing part of a Ferris wheel. You can teach all of these kinds of things. You can step to a wave, and with the oncoming couple, you could do a spin chain through. You can get your way through those kinds of movements. So this right here is probably one of the greatest teaching tools that is underused in square dancing today. I'm not saying you have to use it, but I would highly recommend it. So what does all this mean? Well, what it means is if you have two facing couples as a box to work from, and you have four couples that are in a square, what that does is it gives you a whole lot of boxes that you can work with within a group of 8 people, and a whole lot of people to change around within those boxes to make it feel different, to look at different walls, to feel like you're dancing with different people. And as long as you keep those two dancers together, or sorry, those two couples together, you can move them any which way you please. And we're going to expand on that in order to deal with the concept. Now, isolated sight, just like sight calling, is a complex method when you add things like rubber banding, goal posting, interactives. What we're going to be looking at is the basic simplified premise that new callers should start with, and that's getting two facing couples together, isolate them, move them around still within those two couples, and get them back to the same start point with that same group of 4 dancers. In other words, the rest of the square doesn't exist while you're moving them around. And this goes into the principles of moving across the grid, and also the principles of diagonal symmetry and everything else, that what happens on one side happens on the other side. We're not going to get into those techniques, just accept it. That's the way it works. We'll look at all of that we have in the past, and we can talk about that afterwards. Isolated sight, the second part of this is isolated sight resolution. Isolated sight resolution is essentially what we have here. You take a snapshot. There's my snapshot. There's my picture. Okay. In this case, I've got the yellow couple on the outside and the black couple with the dots on the inside. That's a snapshot. If I get them back to this position, I can, as long as I keep these dancers together, I can move them into all sorts of different things all over the floor because there's something around them. And when I get them back to that same snapshot, they're resolved. If I take the rest of that square out and just move the two couples, and I start with their footprint here, yellow at the bottom, and I move them back to the bottom, they're resolved. That's isolated sight resolution. That's all there is to it. You don't have to worry about this relationship and that relationship and sequence and symmetry and all that other kind of stuff. They start there, they're resolved. They finish there, they're still resolved. In other words, snapshot in, snapshot out. And we're going to play with that concept a little bit. So let's just flip over here to terminations if we can. Okay. So I set this couple up. I've got the white couple at the bottom. Let's just put some numbers on there just to make it easier for those of you that need numbers and have different colors for your own checkers. Okay, so couple number 1 is at the bottom. I can move them around, and when they're back on that exact same footprint, the dancers resolve. And we see a lot of this in calling today on Zoom, two couple calling. So for instance, if I pick a focus, let's just say tag the line as the example, and you can see this down on the left side of the screen. Couple number 1 is at the bottom. That's my snapshot. I don't care about these two. There's my snapshot. I'm only working 4 dancers. I could choose these two. 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 It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use couple number 1. As long as I put them back on those same footprints, if that's an Alaman left position, when they're back on that same footprint, it's an Alaman left. There's my snapshot. I move the dancers around. So, you know, pass the ocean, ladies trade, swing through, and so forth. There's my tag the line. Face right. Girls run. Oh, girls start left, swing through. Doing something a bit weird here. Boys trade. Boys run, bend the line. Look at that. They're back on the snapshot. Number one has returned to the bottom. That group of 4 dancers is now resolved. So let's have a look at who we got here. Get one of our new callers. Anybody want to volunteer? Now, I do warn you, I used to be in the Army, so if you don't volunteer, you'll volunteer the Army way, which means you get selected to volunteer. Helen, go ahead.
I'm volunteering to do what?
Okay, so what I want you to do is just pick a movement. Let's just say spin the top. Okay, I'll give you spin the top as a movement.
Okay.
Here's your snapshot. Couple number 1 is at the bottom. Just call to these 2 couples. Don't worry about where they are and get them back to them standing at the bottom. So use your management, your dancer movement techniques, your choreographic management techniques, but just move the dancers. Don't worry about who's where. All you're going to do is move them around and then get them back with couple number 1 at the bottom.
Okay. Swing through. Spin the top.
I don't care what you call. Don't try and resolve. Just move the dancers around.
Helen, you muted.
Sorry? You're muted, Helen.
Boys run. Couple circulate. Bend the line.
Okay, so now you've free flowed, you've moved the dancers around. You want to resolve that square. Resolving that square means get couple number 1 at the bottom.
Right and left through.
And there they are. That's all isolated sight is. And what we have here, all the dancers are doing that because of the symmetry and the mirror image of the square. The diagonal symmetry means that all the dancers are doing exactly the same thing. And if that was a square, if I had just done a side square through and I took that snapshot, I could call an Alaman left from there. Masako, would you like to give it a try?
Okay.
Okay,
Spin the top.
Now, before we remember, snapshot in, our snapshot is couple number 1 at the bottom. We're not going to worry about where the dancers are until we're ready to put couple number 1 back at the bottom. So I'm going to make it a little harder on you. Okay, so you called spin the top.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
boys trade.
Yep.
Boys run. Tag the line.
Yep.
Face left.
Yep.
Wheel and deal.
Okay. So this is what the dancers have been doing, and they're moving around. They're dancing fine. You're now ready to move. The whole square has been doing what they've been doing, but we want to get couple number 1 back on the bottom. What do I call to do that?
Sweep a quarter more.
Okay, I'm just going to have to undo that. So wheel and deal and sweep 1/4. You've been doing Don Beck's mental image class, haven't you? I could watch you following that in your mind, and it shows. And the whole square is now resolved. That's all there is to it. It's a very, very simple process. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to expand this process. We've taken 2 couples in the square, and we're going to set up a corner box and take a snapshot. So we've now got, let's just set up our corner box here. Sorry, reset. Okay, we're going to set up a corner box and we're going to take a snapshot. So heads square through. The principle is exactly the same. Okay, and it doesn't matter, whatever 2 dancers are easiest for you to remember. If it's easier for you to remember man number 2 and lady number 1 on the bottom right-hand side, or couple number 2 on the outside, or couple number 4 on the outside, as long as you stay within a box, and we've got 2 boxes here, and you bring them back to that same footprint, you're going to be resolved. And the principle is exactly the same. Yolanda, you there?
Yep. Okay, what exactly?
So the first thing you do is you take a snapshot. So which do you want? Couple number 2, couple number 4, man 2, whatever you want to look at.
Okay, so
Yes.
I would be doing lady 1 and man 3.
Lady 1 and man 3, and you want them
Yeah.
on the inside. Okay, so this would be your snapshot.
So that would be
Lady-
like my corner box.
Yeah, lady 1 and man 3. You're not worried about a corner box or what it is. It is a corner box, yes, but all you're going to do is move these dancers around. So let's go, where do you take the colors off? None. And yes, their numbers, none. Okay. So lady 1 and man 3. I want you to move the dancers around in that box only. Go ahead.
Do I get a number?
Nope. Nope, because we're not worried about
Okay,
that.
So do you
we're
just want me to do a corner box to corner box?
I just want you to do 2 couple calling with this group. Isolated site.
Okay, so swing through,
Yep.
spin the top, and a slide through.
Okay, so you've done a module. Let's do this.
Yep.
Touch 1/4. Feedback. Walk and dodge. Reverse. Wheel around and reverse. Okay, now dance them. Keep them in these 4. You have no idea where anybody is now, do you?
No.
Okay.
So let's see. Square through 3.
Square through 3. Yep. Okay, so that's all I wanted to see. You can move 2 couples around, and you notice whatever she's doing here, she's not worried about who's with who. She's worried about smooth, comfortable dancing. She's worried about choreographic management. She's worried about dancer flow, and we want a nice short sequence. When we want to resolve, we want lady number 1 and man number 3 in those positions. So we'll put the couple numbers back on. Now resolve your square.
Thank you. Bend the line.
No. Well,
Oh,
you
actually,
can.
no, actually, partner trade
what?
would work. Partner trade.
Okay. Sorry, I shouldn't have said no to bend the line.
Actually,
but you
bend
would
the
have had
line. Yeah, bend the line would have.
But I just want you to interact with these 4 dancers. Leave this side of the square completely alone.
Okay. Let's see. That's harder. Bend the line again.
Remember what your first rule is? Normalize.
Yep. So half sachet.
Want number 3 man there, number 1 lady there, facing the outside couple.
Yeah, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. It's slide through.
Now you put them back on that footprint.
Mhm.
Just looking at those 2, I could have blacked out all the other dancers, but just putting those 2 dancers back on the footprint that you were looking at, that square is resolved, ready to do an Alaman left.
Exactly.
And away they go. So that's all there really is to isolated sight. You're putting those 2 dancers together, you're moving them around, you're keeping together, even if you want to move them around with rubber banding techniques, as long as they're together and you put them back on that same footprint, your chosen couple, wherever you want it, that square is going to be resolved. Now with this, we've talked about our foundation modules. So a very quick review of our foundation modules. We already know we can move 2 couples, and we practice our isolated sight, and we practice our isolated sight resolution. In other words, snapshot in, snapshot out. Let's turn our attention to our movement modules. Okay, and these are the things where we start adding variety into the movement. These are your base foundation modules for moving dancers back and forth within that grid or that line, still keeping that partner relationship. We're not at the basic crossover, which is the chicken plucker. We'll come to that shortly because that's a very special one. But this is just moving the dancers around. And the first one is your box 0 module. It's called a box 0 because it takes you from a box back to that same box. And that's swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers, pass through. That should be in every caller's repertoire that starts out. The second one is your line 0 module. This is just a flow module. Pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through, first couple go left, next couple go right. And we have spent, we did about a 4-hour session on these modules. Actually, we did 5 sessions on these modules, one which lasted 11 hours and some which were 4 hours. Then you have your first conversion module. That's taking a corner box to a partner line. This is where we start getting the term a fixed point. This is where the caller starts to recognize a phasar, a formation, arrangement, sequence, and relationship, a corner box to a partner line. A head square through box takes you to a heads lead to the right, circle to a line, that kind of thing. And that is swing through, girls circulate, boys trade, boys run, bend the line, or your magic module. And then, of course, if we take it there, we've got to take it back, which is touch a quarter, all 8 circulate, boys run. That takes us from the partner line to the corner box, or we can do it left-handed, does the same thing. These are what we call the fixed point people mover modules, okay? They take us from where we know back to that same spot, or they take us from where we know to another spot, which is a resolved square. For early modular callers, these are your staples of calling. You'll get into a corner box, you'll call a module, you'll call an Alaman left. And that's it. You don't have to think about it because that's a fixed point. And when you're finished, you can call Alaman left or circle left or whatever it is you're calling. Okay. They move the dancers around. And what you do is you're going to convert, you're going to insert, and then you're going to return to that Alaman left position. There's no sight calling involved in these. These are just fillers that every caller should have in their repertoire. And that's what modules are. They're fillers. They take you from a known point, insert module here, back to that known point, Alaman left, or whatever your resolution is. And generally with these, your only variation is side start or head start on the square through or whatever you use as your opening. The other two modules are where callers really begin to introduce two things. That's the change of space and the change of face. And these are where it's really, really important. This is where the grid and moving across the grid for a new caller is your foundation development start. Because everything in square dancing is pretty much moving back and forth, up and down across that grid. Okay, these two modules incorporate the very basic foundation of caller advancement, and that is working the grid. The beauty of these two modules is that for a new caller, you do not have to think very hard on remembering who's who in a square. We showed that with the isolated sight. We showed that with the diagonal symmetry. All of that other kind of stuff comes into play. You don't have to remember it. Okay. Diagonal symmetry and all those mirror image things that are whole sessions themselves, they all take care of themselves with this. Okay. This is that stage of development we're at. We don't want to worry about that. It's going to take care of itself. And the nice thing is, once you get this as your foundation, you're going to see how it takes care of itself. And that's going to make your calling as you develop your skills even easier. What you need to focus on at this point is moving the dancers around the grid under your control. And it's these two modules that are going to do that. So it's these two modules that we're going to focus on to maximize the use of the box or isolated with isolated sight. And what it is essentially variety through change of space and variety through change of face. The first module is the invert and rotate module. And what that does is that changes the people, but it keeps the phasar. A corner box is still a corner box, but it's different people. You start with the heads on the outside, you end up with the sides on the outside. Two people change in that box, but the formation, arrangement, sequence, and relationships are still the same. And that, of course, we know is star through, pass through, bend the line, star through, or slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through. The second one is the foundation module for moving back and forth across the grid. It's called chicken plucker or the half chicken plucker. And there's a lot of variety to it. You can do dive through, centers pass through. You can do right and left through, dive through, centers pass through. I just put 3 here: square through 3, trade by, or right and left through, pass through, trade by. Or if you want to flip the square and still do the chicken plucker, you can say pass through, trade by, right and left through. All we did was move the right and left through to the end. It's a brilliant little variety change that does nothing other than move the dancers around to look at different people. And the chicken plucker changes the people and it changes the phasar. And that takes you from a corner box to a right-hand box out of sequence, or a square through 2 box, or across the street box, whatever terminology you want, takes you there and back again. You can add a lot of variety by using the chicken plucker and the invert and rotate modules to get the dancers interacting with different people. And that gives you that feel of the whole square interacting instead of being isolated in that one little group of 4 and never moving. These two modules change the physical space where the dancers interact, and they also change the faces of the people they're interacting with while still maintaining total control of the formation, arrangement, sequence, and relationship. And the beauty is you don't have to think about the phasar because you just have to trust that it works. A corner box will be a corner box with an invert and rotate, or it'll be a corner box to across the street box with a chicken plucker and back again. So let's start by looking at the invert and rotate. We already know it changes 2 dancers in the group, but it maintains the same phasar. It maintains that same formation, arrangement, sequence, relationship, i.e. a corner box is still a corner box. It's just different people. It's the difference between saying heads square through or saying sides square through. That's what it does. And what we're going to do is we're first going to learn to use it, which we already know. And then what we're going to do is we're going to learn to interrupt it with isolated sight using the two couple opportunities that this provides. So in order to do that, let's have a look at terminations again. So let's reset that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a corner box. And let's just paste this in here. A totally improvised off the top of my head, not prepared beforehand. That's my story. I'm going to stick to it. Okay, so we're going to set up a corner box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's put couple number 1 as red. Let's put couple number 1 at, why is he not changing?
Right mouse click on the.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, but it doesn't seem to want to play.
Your dancer couples are set to none. So set your dancer couple to by couple.
Ah, thank you. There we go. Let's go couple number 1 red, and we'll just use couple number 4 for the sake of argument. And so we'll turn all the others black. This is only to demonstrate, but we could use, like I said, we could use the side couples. We could use couple number 3. We could use whatever. So let's take our numbers off. So all we have to do is remember that red is head. Okay, so let's see if that'll work again. Okay, so we're going to set up a corner box. There we go. We've got our corner box. So we'll note the 4 dancers that are involved. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just for sake of argument, because they're both yellow, we'll note that the sides are on the outside of our corner box. So I'm going to completely ignore this side of the square, and I'm going to do a little bit of isolated sight calling here, something that is totally unknown. I'm just going to make it up as I go along. So for sake of argument, swing through, boys run, bend the line, reverse flutter wheel, and slide through. Okay, and I'm right back on that side. I've done some isolated sight, and they're back. I know that that square is resolved because the yellow couple is back on the outside. I know an invert and rotate is going to change my square by keeping the phasor, but moving it, rotating it, and inverting it. So I'll do my invert and rotate module to show you what that does. Star through, pass through, bend the line, star through. It's still a corner box, but I now have different couples on the outside. And remember what I said, snapshot in, snapshot out. I have a corner box, so I snapshot in. My snapshot here is the red couple is on the outside. In other words, the head couple are on the outside now. I can do my isolated sight, or I can do, I can insert a module here, or I can call an Alaman left here, and the square is resolved. Let's put one of our foundation modules in here just for the sake of argument. Swing through, just a people mover, boys run, Ferris wheel, and centers pass through. I know the square is resolved. Alaman left, right and left grand, and we should be somewhere near home. So how do I maximize the use of that? How do I use that invert and rotate to set up different combinations of people that I want to dance with and still maintain control? Well, the answer is really quite simple. What you do is you identify the snapshot of the two couples you want to work from, and then you interrupt your invert and rotate, and you take a snapshot in different places, because if you remember the sessions we had on isolated site, your snapshot is snapshot in, snapshot out. Get the dancers to the same position, then they're going to be in the same position.
Mel,
So to make it, yes,
do you mind if that make comments during the process or not?
no, absolutely.
I would have thought you've missed a step that would be very useful to the new dancers, is to use rotate only initially, because then the picture they're looking at is the same picture, but in a different,
Yeah,
in a
we
different part of the square.
we had about a 6-hour session on that already. I'm just taking this back to these two modules to show you how to interrupt the invert and rotate module. So
Yeah, sorry.
that part we've already got, but you're absolutely correct. All I want to do is I want to look at these changes and note that, hey, the dancers rotate because it's called an invert and rotate. We want to keep that, and it's going to become clear why I'm doing that when I get right to the end, when we get into the chicken plucker, why I'm doing it that way.
Yeah, sorry, Mel.
But you know, it's an absolutely valid comment. Okay. Daryl put in the chat that the invert and rotate is, or sorry, the chicken plucker is a technical 0. Yes, it is. The invert and rotate is a technical 0. Yes, it is. Technical 0 is something that does corner box to corner box, but something has changed. It's changed where it is. It's rotated. It's done something different. It's not to that same footprint. Okay, so let's reset that and let's paste this in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a corner box. We're going to do our setup a little bit differently. We're going to do some isolated site, which with our focus of spin the top. We're going to work only the 2 couples that we're looking at. It doesn't matter which 2 you pick. And then we're going to do the invert and rotate module. And we're going to do some more isolated site with new people. Then we're going to interrupt it to the bend the line, and I'll show you where I'm at. Okay, so let's set up the corner box. Heads, pass the ocean, trade, recycle, whoops. Okay, and when I come out of that, there's our corner box. Okay, and we've got either couple number 4 on the outside, or if you prefer, you could have couple number 2 on the outside. Doesn't really matter. But let's just keep working with the yellow on the outside for the moment. We'll just keep working yellow and red to see what happens. So we're going to do some isolated site, and we want to use spin the tops. So there's our wave, centers trade, spin the top. Spin the top again. Recycle. And there's our corner box, isolated site. We're back on those same footprints. I could call an Allemande left here. Okay. We're going to put the invert and rotate. I know that that's going to change my yellow being on the outside to my red being on the outside, and it's still an Allemande left box. So if I do a star through, pass through, bend the line, it's choppy because I'm using the mouse wheel. Slide through, I'm now back in a corner box, but I've got the red couple on the outside. I can call an Allemande left here if I have problems, or I can keep going. Let's do a reverse flutter wheel. I'm doing isolated site now, and I want to look at reverse flutter wheel as my focus as an example. Sweep a quarter more. Let's just hit play. Girls walk, boys dodge, girls run. Flutter wheel. Pick up the boy. Right and left through. Slide through. My isolated flight. That was my snapshot in. I've kept these 4 dancers together. That's my snapshot out. So here's where we're looking at just 4 dancers. We snapshot in, we snapshot out. Interrupting that invert and rotate, the process is exactly the same. We know that if I call star through, pass through, bend the line, star through, there's 2 points in there I have lines. After the first star through and after the bend the line. And those are the only 2 points as a new caller I want to look at, because that's going to be my interrupt where I do the next group of isolated sight. So if I start with my star through, okay, I've now changed the parameters, pass through, bend the line. Okay. And remember what I said about snapshot in, snapshot out? Here's my snapshot. I've got yellow facing yellow on the outside, and I'm only going to work these 4 dancers. Doesn't matter that it's new people. That's my snapshot because I'm interrupting the invert and rotate. So if I do pass through, wheel around, see that group of 4 is still staying together, swing through, chain down the line, pass through, reverse wheel around, and reverse Dixie style, boys go in. You can get complicated or whatever you want, girls trade, recycle and sweep 1/4 more. Right and left through. Now another Dixie style, because that's what I'm focusing on this one. Boys cross run, girls run, ladies trade, recycle, sweep 1/4 more. Remember I had a snapshot, the yellow couple, the yellow facing yellow on the outside, boy nearest me. Those dancers are where I put them. I interrupted my invert and rotate. I did star through, pass through, bend the line. To finish my invert and rotate, all I have to do now is call slide through. There's my invert and rotate finished. I should be able to do an Alaman left here and everybody will be resolved. And yes, they are. Alaman left and everybody's home. Are there any questions so far?
Mel,
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
I'm trying to get unmuted here. I'll hold down on it. I'm sorry. Of all the sessions that we've done here lately, I wish I could stay till the end of this one. I cannot. I have to prepare dinner for the wife and get ready to get off to a dance for this evening. Could I make just a short remark ahead of time?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Yes, absolutely everything that you're saying is right. The one thing that I would suggest for the new caller, the really new caller, skip isolated site. Don't go there. You can say, well, okay, call anything you want to a new caller. They don't have a clue as to what to call. And that's a problem. You say, well, put them in a two-phase line. Let's say, what's a two-phase line? Do you see what I'm driving at?
I do.
If you
But
can,
as I was saying,
hold on,
as I was saying right at the
let me
beginning,
finish
Daryl.
because let me finish because I don't have a whole lot of time here.
Okay.
Yeah, the basic traffic pattern, chicken plucker, for the brand new caller, get them doing that, everybody, and give them modules that is going to put them in these other formations and the use of the movements. They need to learn how to set up for movements and what to do with them once they've got them. And confining them to the basic, I call it basic traffic pattern, and call it chicken plucker if you like, that doesn't overload them. If you start saying, well, look for this and look for that, you're talking sight. An isolated site or full site resolution for a brand new caller is the wrong way to go. Just my opinion, mind you. But
You are absolutely correct, Daryl. And that's why right at the beginning, I said, this is the next stage. You will already have to know your basic definitions, your basic formation management, what a two-face line is, what a double pass through. You know that, and you know how to move dancers, and you know how to use the chicken plucker, and you know how to use modules. This
Very
is
good.
the next step. And that's
Very
why
good.
I said we had those sessions.
Sorry, I interrupted you then. Carry on,
No, you're
everybody. Nice
absolutely
presentation.
correct.
I love what you're doing. I really do. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Hope to see you again. And if you have any comments that you want to put in, send them to me in an email and or to Mark, and we'll be glad to add them on to the text.
There you go. All right. Good night, everybody.
Take care, Daryl. Okay, are there any other questions on interrupting this from the corner box? So essentially the module that we're focusing on is the invert and rotate. So if you do a star through, you're in a line. Pass through, bend the line, you're in a line. Either of those two lines, you can take a box on either side, snapshot in, snapshot out, finish your invert and rotate module. That's not going to change who's with who, other than changing the corner box for the heads on the outside to the sides on the outside. It will move the dancers around. It will feel different because you're now working from a line instead of a box. And it's going to feel really, really nice because the dancers are going to get that feeling of I'm interacting with different people. I'm looking at different walls. I'm going in differently. I'm doing all sorts of things differently. You're still doing exactly the same thing. Star through, pass through, bend the line, star through. All you're doing is just adding that little bit of stuff in between. And as Daryl was saying, focus on getting the basics, moving them back and forth with the chicken plucker or basic traffic pattern first. Focus on your modules. Now what we're doing is two couple stuff. That's your isolated site. If you're not comfortable with that, use two couple modules. But just make sure they're two couple modules. It will all work the same. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at then, if there wasn't any questions, is this invert and rotate. We want to expand that a little bit because it works equally well from the right-hand box out of sequence. So let's just reset that. Paste that in there and go. So if we set up a right-hand box out of sequence, which would be heads slide through, centers pass through, that's the right-hand box out of sequence. Okay, and there's lots of ways to get there, pass the ocean, extend, all those other kinds of things. If I do an invert and rotate module, or the, it's exactly the same. Slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through or star through. I went from having the sides on the outside to the heads on the outside, but it's still a right-hand box out of sequence. That's not going to change. If I want to do a two couple module or isolated site, I can do that as well. Swing through, boys run, half tag, and so on. Walk and dodge, reverse wheel around, reverse flutter wheel, pass through, partner trade, slide through. There's my snapshot out. I still have that couple on the outside, which is exactly where I snapshotted in. I've kept these four dancers together. If I want to do an invert and rotate from here, sorry, star through, pass through, bend the line. What's the next part of the invert and rotate, anybody? Anybody?
Star through.
Star through. Okay, so I know I have to call a star through when I'm finished, but I'm going to interrupt it here. And I'm going to say, right, look at this. Boy number 1 and girl number 2 are here. Here's 4 dancers in a box. Let's dance those 4 dancers around for a little bit with a little bit of isolated sight. So I take my snapshot, boy number 1, girl number 2, and I do my isolated sight. Pass the ocean, ladies trade, single hinge, walk and dodge, partner trade. I've now done my isolated sight. I've got boy number 1, boy number 2. I've snapshotted in. I've now snapshotted out. I now have to finish my invert and rotate, which is anybody? Star through. And because I started in a right-hand box, how do I get out of this?
Half a chicken plucker.
Half a chicken plucker, absolutely. Half a chicken plucker. Square through 3, trade by, guess who? Alaman left. And then we can square our sets. That's all there is to it. Now that's a lot of information. That's what I wanted to get presented today, and we can play with that a little bit. And for those of you that want to stick around, I want to talk about the importance of the corner line and the couple circulate. So I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation.
Just
Okay.
one minor complaint. Interrupt is really on the C1 list. Just saying.
Yeah, but interrupt, for those of you that don't dance C1 and whatnot, interrupt is also a common English word, which in this context means to interrupt something or to stop it there and to go on to something else. I'm going to interrupt the flow of a sequence, insert something, and then finish it.
Which
Finish is
ironically,
also on the C1 list.
Which ironically, I just interrupted you, but that's okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. This is a big danger for experienced callers that call at higher levels because they're thinking that way. I want you to take off your anything higher than mainstream hats and put them aside for the minute. There's another thing that was noted in there. The recycle, for some reason, I'll have to talk to Brad about this. If you call recycle from a wave, it's printing out as box recycle, which I think is on the C1 or C2 list. That's happening. It's just a normal recycle. If you type it, that's just a computer glitch.
Pause might be a better word, Mel.
Sorry, pause. Yeah, pause it, or well, we're not really pausing it. We're trying to interrupt the flow of it. We're
No,
intercepting
no,
and putting something in it.
You are pausing your conversion.
Yeah.
And
True.
you're
I just didn't like the word pause because that indicates pausing the dance. It doesn't really matter what word we use. I'm not going to get hooked up on the semantics of the words. The idea is we're going to go part way through it, put something else in there, and then finish it afterwards. Okay, so the invert and rotate, if you remember, that takes you from a corner box or a right-hand box out of sequence back to a corner box or a right-hand box out of sequence, except it's got a new place and a new face. That's it. That's all it does. A half chicken plucker takes you from a corner box to a right-hand box out of sequence and back again. That's all it does. Okay. Nothing else. Picture this from new callers. Don't get involved if you get different phasars and what all these other kind of stuff. We're keeping it nice and simple. Interrupting the invert and rotate, what that does, and as a new caller, what you want to do is you want to interrupt that on the lines because you've already got the boxes. You want to interrupt it on the line. So what you've got is two boxes, but facing each other in a linear formation. It feels different. Even though it's exactly the same two couple calling, it feels different. And that's where we put our two couple module or our isolated site module. The big thing to remember is snapshot in, snapshot out. Snapshot in, look to see who's where, move them around, get them back on that same footprint, snapshot out, then complete. Complete's not a word on any of the lists, I hope. Complete the invert and rotate module. Okay. And what we're going to look at after the break, or after we finish the session, is the corner line and the couple circulate, which is just a little change of the concept. You already know this, but it's going to increase that feel of the dancers. Dancing with different people, dancing in different locations. And as Daryl said, this is a long explanation. All the notes, all the choreography that I've used with all the stuff in brackets is going to be in the handout. So that you can go back and look at this at your leisure. You can plug it into Taminations and you can see exactly what it looks like. These figures are going to be in the notes and it'll tell you it's a right-hand bar. You'll start the invert and rotate, star through, pass through, bend line. You interrupt the invert and rotate and do two couple isolated site, snapshot in, snapshot out. All of this is going to be in the text so you can take a step back, do it at your leisure. This for new callers is quite a complicated seeming system. It's not. It's what you already know. All we're doing is applying the techniques of what you already know. Head square through, column module, Alaman left. Head square through, do isolated site, Alaman left. Head square through, invert and rotate, Alaman left. We've already done all this. All we're doing is putting them together and using that first bit of development of isolated site, two couple calling Alaman left. You're going to find your dancers will like it because it feels different. They're moving across the floor. They're using the whole square. They're seeing different faces instead of always the same 4 faces. And you're going, wow, those Alaman lefts seem to come out of nowhere. You've got total control. How did you figure that out? The secret is you look good. You look like you figured out a confusing mess of dancers going everywhere. You look fantastic. The dancers are going, wow, that person knows how to call. The reality is you didn't really look at anything. You just went bang, 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 bang. They're in a corner box. They're still in the corner box. They're still in the corner box. I can call Alaman left on any of those. They're in a right-hand box. They're in the same right-hand box. They're in a different right-hand box. I can call a chicken plucker an Alaman left. You don't have to think about it. But what happens is you get to look at the dancers moving. You get to enhance your skills of movement managing. You get to enhance your skills of choreographic management, timing, delivery, and move the dancers in these seemingly random formations that keeps them happy, interested with variety, while you perfect your skills to move to the next step, which is expanding your sight calling and so forth. Are there any questions? I'm seeing a lot of smiles, but I don't see any hands. Have I totally confused everybody?
You've made it sound very simple. The problem is that we all know, especially the new ones, that when we're there and they're all moving around, it's more difficult to concentrate and to remember who the couples are and where you want them to be. But the principle is, as you explained it, simple. It's the doing it that's this hard part.
Well, that's what I want to do after I finished with the corner line, is anybody that wants to actually try, and I wanted to get a lot of the newer callers specifically to do exactly what we're talking about, to show you exactly how simple it is. Because if you can do it here and with the text, you can actually take it home, you can practice it on Taminations, and you can deal with it or on Colorama or with your checkers, and you can see exactly how easy it is. Like most things that seem complicated, once you break it down to its component parts, it becomes very, very simple. If you look at this long string of choreography, it looks really, really complex and confusing. But if I say corner box to corner box, module, Alaman left, it's not so confusing anymore. It's just understanding the process of moving through those steps. And I'd like to do that when we're done. Are there any questions on what we've presented so far about the isolated sight, 2-couple calling, and the interrupt of the invert and rotate, and the interrupt and the use of the chicken plucker? No? Okay, well, we're at the top of the hour. If you've only sorted an hour or allocated an hour, by all means, don't feel obligated to stay. The notes and everything else for the next part are going to be on the web with the presentation. The next part I'm going to be looking at is expanding this to use with the corner line or that corner relationship. And this is where you as a caller are going to seem to go, wow, that person knows what they're doing and moving the dancers around. We've had 4 different sessions on working with the corner line. So this is just showing you how to use everything that all of these callers have been telling you without actually having to work really hard. You can see it in action and understand that it works, but now you can see it working and understand why it works. And that's what we're going to look at next. So I've got to go back to share screen, I think. Can you see Taminations on your screen?
No.
No?
No.
How about now?
Now, yes.
Okay. So I want to talk about the importance of a corner line. So first off, let's just remind you what a corner line is. So if we go heads, square through, we know that's a corner box. And everybody can agree with that, yes? And if we change that box to a line, star through, this is a corner line. It's facing lines everybody has their corner as their partner. Can everybody see that? They're all in sequence. 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, girls 1, 4, 3, 2, and so on. This is a corner line. So what is the first part of the invert and rotate? Anybody?
Star through.
Star through. How did I get from a corner box to a corner line?
Star through.
Sorry.
Star through. So I've already done the first part of the invert and rotate. That's the important thing. I've already done the first part of the invert and rotate. We also know that if I do circulate twice or 2 positions, that doesn't do anything, correct? That's just flipping the square over.
Yeah.
So if I do couples circulate twice, once, twice, is that still a corner line?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If I do, I don't know how to do that. Let's say, how would you do head couples? No. Let's do that. Go. So everybody can see that we have our corner right in front of us here.
Yes.
Let's try this. Swing through, boys, trade, boys, run. Does everybody still have their corner as their partner?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if I did a bend the line there, I'd be in a corner line, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If I do a couples circulate, do I still have that corner relationship?
Yes.
Yes.
And if I call a bend the line, am I still in the corner line?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but what have I done? I have inverted and rotated it.
Mhm.
Everybody see that?
That's good.
Yes, no?
Sort of.
I've taken the corner line from here and I've moved the couples up and now they're looking at different people. That's what an invert rotate is. I've changed the space and I've changed the face, but I have not changed the phasor.
Could you play it through so that we can see the beginning and the end position?
Just do a
Sure.
right and left through, Mel, and a slide through so they can see it.
Hang on. Okay, so there's
Start through.
the corner box. Sorry, let me reset that. Why is this acting up on me?
Click outside the box.
I'm
Okay,
trying
sorry.
to.
Not hitting escape.
I've been doing that.
Windows keeps poking up stuff for you.
Let's close a couple things here. Maybe that will help.
You need to click the Windows corner to get rid of it.
The weather corner in the left, top bottom left.
Rating sometimes. Okay, so we know that's a corner box, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
If I do a star through, We know that's a corner line. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if I wanted to invert that, in other words, I wanted to have, see how I've got man number 1 and man number 2 in the same line? If I wanted to have man number 1 and man number 2 facing each other, I could rotate this line to put this couple up here and this couple over here. That would be the invert and rotate of a line. But what I'm doing is I'm going to do that this way. Swing through, boys trade, boys run. See where I go bend the line here? See that corner line? That would be exactly the same as if I did a star through, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so instead of doing this, the bend the line, I'm going to couple circulate and bend the line. They're still in the same relationships. They're still in the same formation, facing lines. They're still in the same arrangement, and they're still in the same sequence. It's still a corner line. But what I've changed, instead of having couple man number 1 down here and lady number 4, I've given them a different space, and I've given them a different face, which is what an invert and rotate. So if I finish the invert and rotate module here, I've essentially done the star through, pass through, bend the line, star through. That's my corner box. All I've done is an invert and rotate module. I just started it different to move them around. By doing that, what happens is we're going to keep that corner relationship, but move them into a different spot before making the line. And where you can see it is right here. He says, hopefully. So if we take a static square, head square through, that's going to give me a corner box. So instead of saying star through, I'm going to go swing through, boys trade, boys run, couple circulate, bend the line. That little sequence is my equivalent to star through. It's going to invert and rotate my corner line. Swing through, boys trade, boys run, couple circulate, bend the line. And all I've done is invert and rotated that corner line. It's got different people. And as I said, if I finish my invert and rotate, that's going to bring me back to a corner box in a different location. Yes.
Mel, before you do that, you should point out that that corner line, if they use any of their normal resolutions from a corner line, it's going to work.
Yeah, I didn't want to go. You're absolutely correct, but I didn't want to go there. I don't want to start expanding beyond this concept of just moving the dancers.
I just thought
Yep.
they'd be able to see their corner box if you did a right and left through and a slide through, just to demonstrate that you can go back to your corner box even there, and then slide through and carry on with what you want to do.
Absolutely. And
I thought they were having trouble seeing that that was still the same box. I thought that's what they were having trouble with. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely correct. But what I didn't want to expand into, here's this and add new choreography or add a way of getting out of a corner line to the corner box resolution. We've talked about those things already. I just want to leave this very, very simple, so that swing through, boys trade, boys run, couple circulate, bend the line. And the reason I'm doing that is to go back to what we did right at the beginning. That's making use of that how to maximize the use of the box knowledge. Yeah. And the answer is, when we did the normal invert and rotate, all we did to maximize the use is when we got to the lines, we did the isolated site from the lines. By moving it in the box, moving our corner line, we do exactly the same thing. We're just moving the corner line to a different quadrant, We're establishing it with two different people, and we work from the line formation. When we're done with our isolated site, we just finish it, and it brings us back to that corner box, like Alan's saying, to find that Alaman left. And the easiest way to actually see all of that working is to see the whole thing together. Reset, paste. So this is going to be the whole thing together. So if I do a head square through from a static square, okay, that takes me to my corner box. Okay, I'm in a box. I'm going to maximize the use of this box by doing isolated site. I take a snapshot. Couple number 4 is on the outside. I'm going to keep these 4 dancers together. I do my isolated site. For sake of argument, swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel. In this case, I've just inserted a module, centers pass through. Okay, I'm back to my snapshot. Snapshot in, snapshot out. I'm going to do my invert and rotate, which is slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through. That's going to put the heads on the outside, the sides in the middle, not paired up, and it's going to move me to a different space and a different face. So slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through. I now have the heads on the outside, sides are in the middle. I take a new snapshot. Let's just say couple number 3 at the bottom here. This is going to be my snapshot. Couple number 3 at the bottom. Let's make them blue. I've got 3, 4, and 2 in the middle. So I'm just going to look at this bottom group while I call, because I've taken a brand new snapshot. Swing through. Boys run. Bend the line. Reverse flutter wheel. Slide through. I've got couple number 3 back at the bottom. I've snapshotted in. I've now snapshotted out. Now, this is where I'm going to do the invert and rotate, but I'm going to pause partway through, but I'm also going to change getting to that corner line. And for this, I'm going to use that little grouping of swing through, boys trade, boys run. That gives me my corner pairing in the 2-face line. Couple circulate and bend the line. Now I'm looking at different people instead of these two looking at each other. I'm going to have these guys looking at each other. So swing through, boys trade, boys run. There's my corner grouping. And if I did a bend the line, I'd be looking at these two, but I do a couple circulate and bend the line. I've done exactly the same thing. I'm still in a corner line, but I'm looking at different faces. I can snapshot here, isolated site. So let's have number 1 man and number 4 lady on the right-hand side at the bottom. That's my isolated site snapshot in. If I dance these 4 dancers by themselves and put these 2 back on the same spot, that is back where I should be. Pass the ocean, ladies trade, recycle, slide through. They're back on the same footprint. I've now resolved there. Now I started my invert and rotate. I've done the first part, which is star through. I have to finish it. Pass through, bend the line, slide through. And if I did all that correctly, all I've done is invert and rotate, insert isolated site. Invert and rotate, circulate 1 position, move them, isolated site, finish my invert and rotate. I should be able to call an Alaman left from here. And are they resolved? Yes, they are. Alaman left, promenade home. That looks really complicated, but what I've done is get into a corner box, module, invert and rotate, module or isolated site. Back to my corner box. I've done the first part of an invert and rotate, isolated site from another 2 couple box. finish the invert and rotate, Alaman left.
Mel,
It's just, yes,
I have a question. The second time when you started your invert and rotate, did you
Yes.
have the couple number 1 on the outside?
now that's what I said about when you do the couple circulate, an invert and rotate box brings you back to your original box because you've already inverted and rotate by using the couple circulate. All I'm doing is moving where that happens.
No, because
I'm
if
in-
you started with the heads on the outside and at the ending we had them again on the outside, all you
That's
did
correct.
is rotate, but not inverted.
Yeah, the rotate is right at the beginning. Instead of star through, pass through, bend the line, star through, which is the invert and rotate, by using that couple circulate, I'm rotating and inverting on the couple circulate, bend the line to get to different people in the line. That's where
Could
the
you let
invert
the
and
whole
rotate. Let me finish,
you let
please. Let me finish, please. So that I've already inverted and rotated. So if I finish the invert and rotate module, I put it back the way it was originally. Remember that adage? If you do it double, or if in trouble, do it double. It does exactly the same thing here. I'm doing an invert and rotate by doing the couple circulate, bend the line, and I'm doing the invert and rotate to bring it back to the start by finishing the invert and rotate. In other words, I'm doing 2 invert and rotates at the same time. All I'm doing is moving the space. You just have
But
to
you let
see it that way. Yes,
the
you're
whole
absolutely
routine-
correct. If the
But you
whole
run
thing
it
is
again?
together, yeah, if the whole thing is together, it's not an invert and rotate. It's a single rotate. But that is exactly the same principle of me saying, if I do 8 chain 4, that's a flip flop. But if I do 8 chain 4 and 8 chain 4, that's a 0. It doesn't do anything. That's what we're doing. We're just doing 2 bits of rotate and invert at the same time to get that feel, to interact my isolated site with different dancers. It's not something you have to do all the time. But if you think about it, if you're going to do, sorry, let's make this a little clearer.
could you run it again? The whole routine?
Yeah, you had to say that after I took it off. Hang on. Actually, what I'm going to do something different first to show you what I'm talking about. And then I'll run that routine again. So if I do add square through, okay, so if I do an invert and rotate, and I do another invert and rotate, notice the heads are on the outside. I started with the sides on the outside. I now have the sides back on the outside and I've rotated it back. Okay, I'm back to my original position. I've done 2 invert and rotates.
Right.
Okay, so if I do heads square through. Okay, now the first part of my invert and rotate is to establish the corner line. So I'm going to establish that corner line, but I'm going to invert and rotate it. Instead of going here, there's my corner line. Okay, I'm going to invert and rotate that. In other words, I'm going to take these people, I'm going to flip them over here, and I'm going to rotate these guys over here. Everybody's going to rotate around one position. So,
Veer left in the girls' trade, no?
sorry?
Veer left in the girls' trade is easier to see.
Yeah, and anywhere you want to get in there. I was just using a common sequence that was known.
Yeah, I thought you were just trying to get through it quickly, that's all.
Yeah, veer left and ladies trade. Not very good flow, but it does the same thing. Okay, so that's my corner relationship. Now I'm going to do the invert and rotate. There's my corner line, invert and rotated. So I've already done an invert and rotate. Okay. Insert isolated site here. I've now called a whole bunch of stuff: pass the ocean, swing through, spin the top, recycle, boy walk, girl dodge, whatever. And I've got back to here. I've now done my isolated site, or I've done my 2-couple module.
Okay, but your rotation was not the box or the square, it was the line.
Hang.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different.
I've inverted and rotated the line. This is why it's so important to interrupt and then finish it. I've now interrupted it. I've done an invert and rotate. So if I do, you notice when I did an invert and rotate from the boxes, it took me back to the same couple on the outside. I've done one invert and rotate. If I use that sequence, I'm now going to finish the second invert and rotate, which is pass. I've done the star through. So, and I've inverted and rotated with a couple circulate, pass through, bend the line, star through. I now have the side couples back on the outside. And this is what Mickey is saying. All I've done is rotate the position. The power in this is where they are. It feels different. I started with this whole, head square through. All I've done is everybody circle left a quarter, or sorry, circle right a quarter, and called head square, original head square through. I've just rotated the square. But for the dancers, instead of interacting with these guys, they've done all their isolated site with these guys and come back to that same position in a different location. You have total control. I've gone from a corner box to isolated site back to that same corner box without changing anything, just doing 2-couple site calling wherever a line presented itself. From here, if I did.
I've got one more point.
Yeah.
You got to be careful when keeping track that you're not mixing up the rotation, inverting of the line combined with the other setups, or when interrupting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
that's why I said right at the beginning, you have to, when you do a invert and rotate module, if you're going to pause it or if you're going to interject something into it, you have to remember to finish it. Okay. And that's what isolated site or a 2-couple module does. It starts in the snapshot. Remember, snapshot in, snapshot out, finish the sequence. If from here, if I go, and this is all we're doing, we've done reset. This is what we're doing. Heads square through. Okay, we're making a corner box, which we have. We're doing an invert and rotate. New face, new place. Same phasar. Then we're doing a start, invert, and rotate. Put a 2-couple module or isolated site. And that's done by snapshot in and snapshot out. And then we're finishing the invert and rotate. That's all we're doing. And what we're then when we do the invert and rotate, we're in the corner box. We're rotating to the corner line. Different place. Different face. Okay, and because we've interrupted it, we then have to, sorry, because the interruption before the couples circulate is an invert and rotate from a line finishing the invert and rotate brings us back to the corner box that we originally had, but in a different spot.
Check your spelling above.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the spelling at this point. It's just the sequence. So if you can see that we're in a corner box, if we do an invert and rotate, we understand that gets the same place, same face, or sorry, invert and rotate gives us a different face and a different place, but the same phasor. If we interrupt it by using that module, swing through, boys trade, boys run, bend the line, or anything else that's going to put us into that relationship. Okay, and it could be anything. Like, for instance, if we did, I don't know, spin the top. I'm doing the swing through, boys run, or boys trade, boys run, bend the line, or veer to the left, ladies trade. I'm just doing whatever it is to do that. And this is a module to establish that corner line. So spin the top, recycle, veer left. Okay, does it there? There's that corner relationship. Here's the invert and rotate. Remember, I had the sides on the outside of my snapshot in. Couples. Circulate, bend the line. There's my corner line. And it's inverted and rotated. I do two couple sight or module here. Snapshot in, snapshot out. If I now finish my invert and rotate, because I've already done the star through part, that should put me back into a corner box with the sides on the outside. And as Mickey says, all I'm doing is rotating it. Pass through, oops, sorry. Finish the invert and rotate module. Pass through, bend the line. I'm not looking at where the dancers are, so if I'm doing this right, it should work. Slide through, and that should take me to an Alaman left, if I did that correctly. So let's pull up the screen. And yes, it does. I can do a right and left grand from there. So that's all I'm doing is adding this, but the dimension is I'm doing the work across with line, two couple calling isolated site with boxes. The big thing with this, what happened there? Am I still sharing?
Nope.
No.
Okay. The big thing with this is it's a simple technique, but it seems really, really complex. It's not. It's using what you already know. We already know our foundation modules. The invert and rotate is one of our formation foundation modules. The chicken plucker is one of our foundation modules. And this works exactly the same with the chicken plucker, interrupting that invert and rotate. We already know how to move dancers. We already know our basic formation management, and we know how to set up a two-face line, and we know what a corner line is. This is all stuff that we've already done as a new caller. So as a newer caller, once you know that, we're taking that foundation of known material without adding on, yeah, that's a corner line here, I can get out like this, or this is a module that will do that, or if you're here, you can also do a get out from this location, or you can do all these flows. Take all that out of the equation. All we're doing is getting to the box, two couple calling in a box, putting the box in a different spot, two couple calling in a box, bringing the box back to the corner box, calling Alaman left. We're moving the dancers around with a lot of variety, maximum control, but without having to worry about who's with who for the resolution, because you already know that. You're only going to be working in two situations. That's a corner box with the heads on the outside, or a corner box with the sides on the outside. These modules, you already know what's happening. When you're comfortable, you add the chicken plucker. You're not going to change anything. It's new faces. So if you start with a right-hand box, instead of head square through, you say head star through and pass through. You're starting with the right-hand box out of sequence. All this stuff works exactly the same with the right-hand box. All you have to do is remember, finish it with a chicken plucker. You're at the Alaman left. You're moving the dancers around with a lot of variety, a lot of flow, different faces, different places. It feels like you're doing a full-blown wow sight calling square dance, but you're not. You're controlling the dancer with a simple technique so you can build those foundation skills to go to the next level. And that next level is what Alan was talking about. Hey, there's that corner line, which we've rotated. I can do a right and left through, star through, and I'm there. I can see that because that's part of a different resolution technique. You can move them into the pass through, wheel and deal, center, square through 3, because that's part of a different resolution technique. That's stuff that comes later. Don't worry about that now. We're just talking about moving the dancers around with you having maximum control. And by seeing that a line is just two boxes, snapshot in, snapshot out. And the only two places I want you to concentrate on are the star through. There's a line of two boxes. That's the first one. Pass through and bend the line. There's a line with two boxes. Work in the boxes. If you do that, you've got your box on the right side, box on the left side, invert and rotate box on the other side. You've got your line box on one side. You've got your corner line, the box on one side, and rotated box somewhere else with different people. And that's all you're doing. Different faces, different places, same formations, nothing else changes. It seems complex, but it's not. It's very, very simple, but it's a lot of material to absorb. And that's why it's all written out in the text. The slides are there to have a look at, and the step-by-steps going through it. All you have to do is accept that. Invert and rotate once, changes places. An invert and rotate with another invert and rotate is a 0. It may rotate to a different spot, but it's the same people, different place. And if you keep that in your mind, you're going to be much, much happier and much more able to control the flow of where the dancers are and see that resolution. Are there any questions? Yes, Guga.
Not necessarily a question. I think this was really good. I really liked the presentation and but I was trying to, or thought of objecting already when you said that the invert and rotate gives the same phaser. That's not totally true, because it is a technical 0, as Darren pointed out in the.
Yeah. Okay. A phasar is a description of a place. A corner box is a phasar. That tells you that I am in a box. There's my formation. It's telling me my arrangement is normal. It's telling I'm in sequence, and it's telling me my relationship. Partners are paired on the outside, and I'm not paired on the inside. Everybody's facing their corner. Now that's a phasar.
Yeah.
That doesn't say it's couple number 1, couple number 2, dancer 3 and 4. So a phasar here and a phasar here, or a phasar here, a corner box is a corner box. It's
But
the same phasar, it's just a different location. Yes, it's a technical zero, but I'm changing the place and I'm changing the face.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't call it a zero.
No, I didn't say so, but the fact that it is a technical zero also means
Yes.
that it doesn't necessarily is a zero in all places. For instance, if you start your figures with a heads lead right, and then I can just do a circle to a line and I've got myself a zero line. Many of those figures
And
don't.
do you remember what I said right at the beginning?
Yeah.
Fixed points, corner
Yeah.
box, partner line, corner line. Those are the three fixed points that this applies to. Nothing else expanded, because that's adding on to the techniques. This is just the very start of foundation of moving. It's a simple part of the technique. And like everything else in square dancing, as your knowledge grows, these things are going to go to different applications. It's no different than calling a 3x1 walk and dodge is still a walk and dodge, but that's a different application of the same concept. And what you're talking about is a different application of the same concept. This does not apply to a lead to the right box, because we're not, well, it does, but there's other things that you have to do with it.
Yeah.
And we're not there. I wanted to keep it very, very simple to those two fixed points.
I was just trying to comment that the invert and rotate is not always a zero. You can't.
Yes,
and
you are absolutely correct.
You are doing with and whom you are with. You are trying to do it. The other comment I'd like to allow, just the thought, when we were in lockdown during the pandemic, there was, some of us were doing quite a lot of those two couple Zoom things, and then was how much use of the thoughts I had when doing this, because it was hard to sight call during a Zoom meeting because they were a half a second later than me what I could see. But using these techniques of isolating two couples, that helped a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Two couple isolated sight or two couple modular calling is a foundation skill for callers. And I will strongly encourage any new caller not to learn a resolution technique until you have some base foundations. Learn the principle of a resolution technique and know that it works so that you can dismiss it out of your repertoire until you're ready to add that to your repertoire. There's nothing in here that says I'm going to learn how to resolve a square, because your square is always resolved. You've got total control. The reason you have a simple resolution technique is it's always, always, always possible to lose that control, forget to call something, and then you have to figure it out. That's where your resolution technique comes. Treat it like that little tiny spare tire that you have on your brand new Audi. Your tires are this big, but that little spare tire is there. You check to make sure it works. It's in the trunk. It's there. It's got air in it. And you hope to God you never have to use it. That's what a resolution technique is. It's that little spare tire in your trunk that's there that you can pull out if ever you do get lost or get in trouble. But you hope to God you never have to use it. When you're done with it, you fix the tire and you put it back in the trunk where it's going to stay safe until you need it in another emergency. That's what a resolution technique is. Everything else is controlling the dancers, putting them where you want them to be to do what you want to do. And as your skill increases, your ability to do that from different spaces will increase. You'll see Alaman lefts from a trade by. You'll see Alaman lefts from diamonds doing something else. You'll see them from inverted galaxies or whatever you do up at the C1 level. And suddenly they're all out in a wonderful place. That comes with time and practice. At the simple level, you've got to learn to move dancers, manage your formations, and keep control of the floor. And that's what these do. Guga, you're absolutely right. Two couple calling is something that every caller should learn and should focus on because it is a foundation skill. Moving the dancers with an invert and rotate is a foundation skill, especially if you're going to start writing singing calls, because you want them to be in a different spot than in that left-hand corner to do the swing and promenade, just to stop all those advanced and C1 dancers from stopping at home. You want them to promenade in a basic and mainstream dance. This forces them to do that. And especially if you got somebody like Chris on the floor and you can go, haha, Chris, you got to go all the way now. Right, Chris? I think somebody earlier today said if you've got a challenge dancer and they're in one step over, they'll actually back up to home instead of going all the way around. Don't give them that
singing call.
It's those little techniques that are going to help you as a caller. What Daryl said earlier about working the grid, absolutely correct. What he said earlier about learning how to use the chicken plucker, move the dancers through the grid first, absolutely correct. What Alan said about if you can see that corner line, and we had that a number of sessions on the corner line, if you can see that corner line, when you're doing this invert and rotate, right and left through, star through, you're out. If you ever get in trouble, that's your quick get out. But if you can see it, that means you're still in control. You can finish your invert and rotate, pass through, bend the line, slide through. There's your corner box. That comes with time and practice. Everything that has been said is absolutely correct. What Guga said about the invert and rotate is not always going to work, absolutely correct, but it will work with corner box, a right-hand box out of sequence, and a partner line for that line, invert and rotate. Those are the only three fixed points that we're concerning about. And as a new caller, those are the only three fixed points that you should be looking at until you get used to moving the dancers around.
The other
This is a
thing you could take out of the session, Mel, is that you've introduced the idea of circulating. They're taking their corner with them. If they do two circulates, it's the same as having called the sequence twice. So if they then bend the line, they're back in the original box, but on the other side of the square. So
I did say that, but I realized when I did that, I did it as facing lines circulate twice. I should have actually put it in two-face line and showed that as well. And I realized that after the fact, and you're absolutely correct. One circulate does it.
The other thing they could take out of it is if they don't take the corner with them, it becomes a rotate. If they take the corner with them, it becomes an invert and rotate. And that's a useful little bit of knowledge just to understand. There's only two people you can take with you if you're going to circulate as a couple. You can either take the corner or you can either take the opposite lady. And so if either way, you're going to invert or rotate, one or the other. Yeah.
And again, that's going into what Guga was saying. That's the next step up. That's a little bit more advanced. And that's learning how to manage where the dancers are, that arrangement, the sequence, and that comes with time. Right now, don't worry about that. But Alan is absolutely correct. There are only two options. It seems like there's hundreds, but there are only two options.
There's one thing you did that I thought was very good. When you were inserting a bit of isolated sight, it's great to choose the couple at the front of the square, because that's the couple the caller can see easily. And so to bring that couple back to the front of the square again in your group of four makes it a lot easier to sight from the stage. And so for a newer caller, that's just that little bit of knowledge that you can see it easier while you're calling would help. That you can see these two couples back, looking at their backs, looking at their colours, you know you've got them together. Makes that little bit extra assurance that I've got them back where they should be after having done a little bit of isolated sight.
Absolutely. And one last thing before we open this up just for general practice, I just wanted to show you that this works from a right-hand box. I'm not sharing, am I?
Nope.
No, I don't know why that happens all the time. Is
There
it
you go.
sharing now?
Yes.
Okay. This works from a right-hand box as well. So I'm going to set up the right-hand box out of sequence. Where it says isolated site, I've just thrown in that flow module. That's just representative. Okay, so it's not isolated site, it is a module. But this shows you that the invert and rotate, slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through, works. It'll take me to a right-hand box, new place, new face. I do isolated site with new people, new face, or new place, new face. And then I'm going to do the first part of the isolated site by rotating the line. Swing through, boys trade, boys run, couples circulate, bend the line. That invert and rotates during the line, like Alan was saying. I've taken my corner with me. I do my isolated site from that line, two couple calling. I finish my module, pass through, bend the line. Oh, sorry, this is all part of it. I do the next part, pass through, bend the line. And now I'm going to do another two couple isolated site because I'm in a line again. Wherever you have that line, I'm doing exactly the same thing, isolated site. And now I finish my invert and rotate module, which is the slide through. And because I started in a cross the street box or a right-hand box of a sequence, I know I'm a chicken plucker away. Okay. All I'm doing is adding two couple calling to where the line is, snapshot in, snapshot out. And if I did this correctly, this should work. Swing through, boys run. This is my isolated site, sort of, or my module. I'm now going to do an invert and rotate, slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through. There's a line. Oh, let's back that up. There's a line. I've got couple number one at the bottom. Boy on the right, girl on the left facing each other. So let's just highlight those. That's my snapshot. Red at the bottom facing each other, boy on the right. I call. Reverse flutter wheel. Oh, there it is. Okay. So now that's the rest of that. I'm now back into my right-hand box. Can you see that? That's the right-hand box out of sequence. I just now have the heads on the outside. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of calling slide through to get to the corner line, I'm going to call the swing through, boys trade, boys run, couples circulate, bend the line. That's taking my corner with me or inverting and rotating the line. Swing through, boys trade, boys run, bend the line. And there it is. That's my right-hand lady line, still out of sequence, exactly the same thing that I did. I'm not going to treat it any differently. I'm just going to make sure that what I do is I'm going to do my isolated site, man number 3, lady number 1, these two dancers closest to me. I could have used 4 in the middle. It doesn't matter. I could have used these two. I could have used these two. Whatever stands out at you. Okay. So we do pass the ocean, recycle, sweep a quarter more. They're right back where they were. So I can now snapshot out. Pass through, bend the line. Oh, wait a minute. There's another line. A line is 2 boxes. Let's use these ones. If I get number 4 man, number 1 lady, I can do isolated site again. Touch a quarter, scoot back from a column. Ooh, that feels different. Boys run, spin the top. Boys run, wheel and deal. I finished my isolated site. They're back where they're supposed to be. I can now finish my invert and rotate, which all I have left is the slide through. So if I call slide through, and because I started with a right-hand box out of sequence, I'm back in my right-hand box out of sequence. I'm only a chicken plucker away to an Alaman left. which is, and I don't know what happened there. Square through 3, trade by or any of your chicken pluckers. Alaman left. I should be at a right and left grand. Give the dancers a reward for doing such a great job. Hoo-ha. There's your partner. Promenade, short walk home. Get ready to start again.
The only
It worked.
downside with this, Mel, is two things. It's for newer dancers is keeping track of where they are, not forgetting something. And for us seniors with short-term issues, is remembering who you're snapping off each time, so you don't lose it. You don't lose it. Yeah.
And this is why I said earlier, and why I really stress this. I've got everything in that sequence. If you're going to start doing this, you might want to do head, square through, invert and rotate, swing through, spin the top, slide through, Alaman left. Right and left grand, you're home. The next time you might want to do side, square through, swing through, boys run, or sorry, swing through, boys trade, boys run, couple circulate, bend the line. There you are. Let's finish the module. Pass through, bend the line, slide through, Alaman left, you're home. The next time you want to build each one of these pieces in slowly. If you're going to interrupt it, you want to interrupt slowly. You would not do this as a brand new caller. This shows the whole thing going through everything. You do this in bits and pieces. Short in, use, short out, Alaman left. This right here could be about 5 or 6 different sequences. It's for you to practice on as a new caller. And what Alan says, yeah, absolutely. This can get troublesome if you're trying to do too much too fast. The same as if you're a modular caller and you try and do 27 modules in your first tip. It's not going to work because you're trying to do too much too fast. And that's a very good comment. So, all right, so what we're going to do now is reset that. And who have we got? Have we got any new callers here? Just Yolanda. Key, you want to have a crack at this?
I have to do.
Okay, so we're going to set up a corner box. However you want. I'll give all the dancers
head slide through.
I'm just giving the dancers all colors, so I don't have to change them each time.
Oh, I only remember 1 and 4.
Okay, so heads slide through.
And left square through 3.
Okay, so which 2 couples do you want to focus on? Or which 2 dancers do you want to focus on? We're going to do some isolated sight now.
The number 4 and that side here.
Number 4 on the outside?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's our snapshot in, getting the black on the outside. Pick a movement. Pick any square dance movement that you got with 2 couples.
Swing through, boys run.
Okay. Swing through. Boys run. Go ahead.
Bend the line.
Okay, so you're calling isolated sight. You don't know what. Now we want to get that black couple on the outside.
Pass through, we and you.
No, got to keep these 4 together.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean only isolated side? Okay.
Isolated sight at the moment.
Okay. Lady chain across. and slide through.
Okay, so we've now finished. There's our snapshot. Okay. Let's do we're going to invert and rotate, but we're going to, after the pass through bend the line, we're going to do another isolated site. So start your invert and rotate.
Even go to box. Slide through, pass through. Bend the line.
Okay, and now we're going to interrupt it. Okay, so we're going to take a snapshot, couple number 3 at the bottom.
Okay.
Okay, you want to put them back, man on the right, lady on the left, facing each other. You want to keep these 4 dancers together. And you want to get them back to that same footprint.
Ask the option. Swing through.
Just move them. Don't worry about who's where until you're ready to put them back. Just keep those 4 together, 2 couple calling only.
And boys run.
Yep.
Bend the line.
Okay, now you want to get the blue couple at the bottom. So you want these 2 ladies to change places with each other.
Lady chain across.
Okay. So we've now got our snapshot out.
Yeah.
Okay, and we want to complete the invert and rotate module.
May I give a hint?
Yeah.
We had the boy run and bend the line, and then the lady's chain is not so good for the body flow. If we would take a reverse to Flutter, we would have the same effect.
Absolutely. I wasn't really concerned about the body flow at this point, but it's an absolutely valid comment. Okay. So we've done, we started our invert and rotate. We did star through, pass through, bend the line, a bunch of stuff. We're back where we start when we need to finish our invert and rotate module. What's left? We've done star through, pass through, bend the line. What's left?
Slide through.
And if you did all that correctly, you should be able to call Alamand left. Can you?
1 number 4, yeah. And right and left hand.
And you're home.
Yeah, I did not pay attention to the flow.
And yeah, well, that's, and like I said, this is one of the things that this technique will really help you with, because you can actually see your dancers would have danced that on the floor, but they all would have gone to let you know that that did not feel that nice to dance. And you would know next time. But what you're doing here is you're learning this technique because you're not worried about what the resolution is. You set up a corner box. You know an invert and rotate is going to get you to a corner box. You know that isolated site with a snapshot in, snapshot out is going to do nothing. It's just like a zero module. And then you called Alaman left. That's all you're doing is into a corner box, into a different corner box, Alaman left. That's all we're doing. We're just doing a bunch of stuff in the middle that doesn't do anything. And really, when you think about it, what is a pattern tip? You start in a known spot, you end in the same spot, you do a bunch of stuff in the middle. That's all we're doing here. We're starting in a known spot, we're ending in a known spot, we're doing a bunch of stuff in the middle. It's exactly the same thing, but a little portion of it. And those little portions get added together to make a big dance. Hannah, you want to have a crack at this, or John, or somebody?
So it's really, really simple, isn't it? So you're doing a get in, you're doing a zero, either using isolated site or a module. You do 3/4 of an invert and rotate, do another zero using isolated site or corner or a module. Finish the last quarter of your invert and rotate, do an Alaman left and weaver right, left, ground. Right?
Absolutely correct.
Exactly. Okay. Good.
Anybody
See, it's
want to
really
have a crack
simple.
at-
You just did a lot of talking that you didn't need to.
Yeah, but you have to walk through the whole process to see it. Hannah, you want to have a crack, or John, or anybody?
No, so if you just have a good selection of modules until you're ready for your isolated site, you're set.
A good selection of 2 couple modules.
2 couple modules. Yes.
Okay.
Zeros.
From your corner box to your right-hand box, if you have true zero modules or zero modules, yes.
And
But we don't want to go that far. Remember,
so
we're
and then
we're
taking
starting
this
out.
and theoretically, if you take this one step further, you could do a get in, a corner box to partner line to corner box, then do your the zero, then do blah 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 blah, right? And then if you wanted to, then
Absolutely.
after the you could throw in another, like a partner line to partner line and stuff. Like you just plunk things in, right?
Absolutely.
As long as you remember to finish off your invert before your Alaman left.
That's what these are for. This is what this word is. Foundation. Your box zero module or your zero module, your line zero module, your corner box to partner line, your partner line to corner box. Those are our fixed point people movers. And we already know how to insert a corner box module. We already know how to insert a partner line module. We already know how to convert back and forth. So you can use those modules. We already know how to do an invert and rotate, and we already know how to use chicken plucker. All we're doing is taking this, and after the star through, we have lines. After the bend the line, we have lines, inserting a 2 couple module or isolated site at any point where we have 2 facing couples along that line. We start, there's a pause where we insert something new. We complete that, we finish where we pick up where we left off and finish the sequence.
So theoretically, we could just start. We could either, never mind. I've got it.
Finish your thought.
No, I'm just thinking out loud. So I have a choice. If I want to, I can do a quarter of the invert and rotate and then finish it with 3/4 of an invert rotate.
Yep.
Because basically you're just creating a zero. If you think of the invert and rotate as a zero, and then you're just fractionalizing the invert and rotate, and as long as you remember to finish the fraction, you're fine.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And it works because instead of you writing it out, I did it my way of learning.
That's fine. And as I said in the very first session that we did, the best way and the right way of learning to call, learning to resolve is the one that works for you.
So if you think of it if you really want to simplify it, because I was thinking if I was trying to teach this to another younger a newer caller, or like when I used to do teach my student that weren't getting something. If you think of it like a train, think of the get in as your locomotive, right? Then you have the train, and then you have your end, and then you just every train can be wagon can be something different depending on what you need. It works.
Or building blocks.
Building blocks.
You
But
ready
think
to
of
try
it,
it?
but yeah.
Are you ready to try it?
Sure.
Okay.
So getting would be head square through 4. Then let's do a right and left through, veer left, Ferris wheel.
What are you doing here?
A corner box to corner box.
Okay, so you're doing a corner box to corner box module?
Yep. Keeping it simple.
Okay, go ahead.
So right and left through, veer left, a Ferris wheel, and the center's pass through. Then the start of an invert and rotate, which would be a slide through, pass through, bend the line.
Stop. Okay, there's some lines. Do you see them?
Yep.
Okay,
corner
we've done the
lines.
star through. So let's do an isolated site here. Just do some isolated site. Keep these two down. So you want to move them around.
No. We're keeping it simple, just like
We
Daryl
are
says
keeping
between
it simple.
modules.
We are keeping it simple.
I'm
Just
not
do
good
something with
moving.
these two couples.
I don't like the isolated stuff. I just want to stick to the modules.
Have you got a two couple module?
Sure. How much?
Use a two couple module then.
Okay, so touch a quarter, split circulate, boys run, past the ocean, recycle, and a right or left through.
And we wanted to do the next
Now
part.
we're going to finish off the invert and rotate. So that would be pass through, bend the line, slide through.
What would you call after that?
Element left. No, another, wait a second. I'm getting it. Then another 0.
You were right though. You could call an element left there. You're
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
correct.
Or you could throw another 0 in.
Yeah. Or you could even do
Or you could actually,
two couple or you could even do another two couple isolated site or a two couple module
Yeah.
there, and then
Yes.
call the slide through in the element left.
you could actually,
Or you could call the slide through. Hang on. Slide through, and there's another box where you can call two couple dancing with different people, and then call an element left. That's
And-
why
and
it's called. That's why it's called maximizing the use of the boxes, because you had the box here, you had the box there, you had the box here, you had the boxes in lines. You can use these boxes anywhere without jumping out of the formula.
And I would, if I was choreographing something, I would go from corner box to partner line to partner line, partner line to corner box, and then do an
Sure.
element left.
And you can use that interrupt principle exactly the same there. There's your corner box. Swing through. There's your partner line.
So then
You
do
can
a
do
partner
two-
line to partner line,
You can do a partner line, or you can do,
do a partner line to corner box.
yeah, or you've got to see this. This is a box. You had a 2-couple box module there. You can do a
Yeah.
2-couple box module there. Put them back to the footprint and then take them to the corner box again. And if you're in trouble, you can call circle
Do
left
it double.
or Alaman left. This is exactly what, and we have not gone away from our 6 foundation modules. We haven't introduced anything new. And if you're a modular caller and you have a focus module, say your focus module wants to be on split circulate, you can do 2-couple split circulate modules or 2-couple isolated site at anywhere where you have 2 facing couples. You can put that interruption in there, complete it, and then just pick up where you left off. But as Mickey was saying, as Alan Kerr was saying, don't try and do all this at once. Don't try and write this out as long sequences. Start practicing getting in, doing a little bit, getting out, getting in, doing a little bit of something else, getting out, putting 2 and 2 together, getting out, and just build up like that.
If you wanted to make your sequence larger, if you wanted to, you could just do another interrupted invert and rotate somewhere in your sequence, and just consider them zeros, right?
Absolutely.
As long as you do it an A and a B.
Yep. You start it, you finish it.
Yeah. All I
Roz,
to
do you want to have a crack at this? If you're still with us?
I'm still here. Don't know if you can hear me. I've got my old computer at the moment.
Sorry, I could barely hear what you said there.
I've got trouble with sound. I'm using my old computer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did you
I
want to
don't
have a
know.
try at this?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll reset it. Let's try this from my right-hand box. So I'll set you up.
Slide through, pass through.
There you go.
Mhm.
Okay, so what we want to do is 2-couple isolated site. So we take our snapshot in, that's couple number 2 on the outside of this box.
Right. Okay, swing through.
It'd be RBO, the O didn't come out. Swing through.
Boys run.
Yep.
And wheel and deal.
You're not getting very adventurous, but that is correct. They're back where
No,
they're
I'm not
supposed to
very
be.
ambitious. No, yeah.
That's okay. So I want you to start your invert and rotate, but this time we're going to rotate the corner line. So you remember how we got there?
To do the slide through or the.
No, I don't want to do a slide through. I want to rotate that corner line. That's that swing through, boys trade, boys run, couples circulate, bend the line. We're going to move that corner line.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't got that one down. I've got it written down, but okay. So swing through. Yeah. Oh, I got you. Okay, boys run. So circulate.
We could just call bend the line. It would do the same thing.
Okay,
Couples
bend the line.
circulate, bend the line.
Yeah.
Okay, now what we want to do is that 2-couple isolated site, sorry. We have done the first star through of the invert and rotate. So we've now done the first. So that's important to remember because we've got to finish the invert and rotate. Now what we want to do is 2-couple module or isolated site.
Okay.
So which 2 dancers do you want to focus on which side of which box? This box or this box?
The left one at the moment.
2 and 3?
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll turn those black. What we want to do is dance the dancers around, keep them in this group of 4, and put number 2 and number 3 at the bottom again. Give them
Right,
something
left.
challenging to do, Roz.
Oh, God. Right and left through. Flutter wheel. Sweep a quarter. Oh, sorry, I should have said flutter wheel, sweep a quarter. Sorry.
Want to sweep a quarter?
Yeah. Right and left through. Veer to the left. Bend the line. Slide through.
Okay, so you've done some isolated sight. Now we want to get the black couple back at the bottom.
Right and left through. Oh, sorry. Yeah, down the bottom. Okay. And star through.
Yep.
And with this, bring the girls across. Okay, that would be all right. Ladies chain. Right and left through, or pass through, wheel around.
Okay, so they're back at the bottom. Snapshot out. Okay, so we've done the first part, which is the star through. We want to finish our invert and rotate module. So what's left in it?
Pass through. Bend the line. Slide through.
I should be able to call a,
Element left.
now we started right-hand box out of sequence,
A chicken plucker and then an element
a
left.
chicken plucker.
Or half a chicken plucker and an element left.
Because we started in an RBO, we have to finish with a chicken plucker. So give me a chicken plucker.
Right and left through. Pass to the center. Centers pass through.
And
Element left. Oh, sorry, centers pass through. Yeah, element left.
give the dancers a bit of a reward. And a very short promenade home. Okay, there's a lot of motion there. There's a lot of motion there. There's a lot of motion there. I'd say they're using a good portion of the floor, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Mm.
This lady, maybe not so much, but she's still using a good portion of the floor, and she's going left, right, left, right. By just moving that, if we hadn't done that couple circulate, this would have been all right here.
Right.
But by
yeah.
doing that couple circulate,
Bring them
moving her down
across.
here, we've suddenly changed it.
Mhm.
And that's all there is to it. It's really quite a simple concept that seems complicated till you start looking at what it does. And if you break it down into little pieces, you're going to find it very, very easy to use, especially as a new caller. And it's a great way of developing your skills, your management of the choreographic flow, your formation awareness, switching from a line to a box, being in control, recognizing that corner line, recognizing that couple circulate twice does nothing. Just, well, it rotates, but it doesn't really do anything. Moving it once is an invert and rotate. That's that corner line. If you're in a partner line, you're not changing sequence. You're not changing. All of this will come into play and build on the skills you have and help you augment the skills that you're developing while they're developing. Want to have a crack, Mark? Well done, Ross.
I've been doing other things here, not really paying much attention.
Anybody else want to have a crack?
Does that mean you were sprung, Mark?
Now, Mark's trying to sort out the technical stuff because the slide package that I sent him, I was editing and I changed a couple of things. I'll send you the new one when we're done, Mark.
Okay.
Well, if nobody else wants to look at anything, these will be on the web page when we're done. Along with the video, you can go back and watch it. All the choreography that was presented is going to be there. And it's done in such a way that it'll walk you through. As you can see here, you can just copy and paste this right into Taminations or into Colorama or whatever program you use. And it'll walk you through what's happening, how to use the invert and rotate from the corner box with the choreography, going through what we did, your foundation modules, and what the basic principles are. So this and the slide package will all be there for you to use at your leisure. Let's stop share. And just a reminder to everybody, there will be no session next week or the following week. We'll be back on the 24th. So we're going to take next week off for Color Lab, and then the following week we're going to take off for Easter. Give everybody a nice long 2-week break. And there's lots of stuff for you to play with here.
And you said no Don Beck next week either, right?
Yeah, Don is not presenting next week because of Color Lab as well. And he doesn't know about Easter yet, but I'm sure him and Dan will put an announcement on Facebook if that's the case. But for us, it'll be a 2-week holiday. So, anybody have any questions? Yes, Guga.
That was more a bye-bye.
Oh, bye-bye. Bye-bye. You take care of yourself.
Yeah, it's 4:30 or 3:30 here, so it's time to go to bed.
It's a lot of material. It'll give you something to think about while you're sleeping. If it doesn't put you to sleep.
Yeah, Hans and Lars are gone. They fell asleep.
Yeah.
Right off their chairs.
Now, a lot of people like to record these, go back. I want to say thank you to all of you for coming in each time and for participating in the sessions. And as I say every week, if you have something you want to look at or something you want to drag up that we've done before, look at in closer detail. If you want to go back and practice something like we've done tonight or any of the other things that we've done, by all means, we can build entire sessions around those. We can take what we've done about 3 or 4 times during the season and just do a practice where we put all this stuff together and play with it. The best way to improve, though, is to practice, practice, practice. And when you're done practicing, practice some more.
Yeah. I've got to work more on moving the dancers around so I can do the isolated sound.
One thing I will say, Yolanda, you are at the point in your calling, whether you believe me or not, where your calling, your understanding of the movement mechanics and setting up the modules is good. You can see the flows, you can do some really good modules, you can set up some really good 2-couple modules. So you're at the point right now to say, right, module, try some isolated site, module, isolated site, module, isolated site, module. But make your sequences short in, do what you want to achieve, get out to that Alaman left and move on. Yeah. Your skills are a lot better than you give yourself credit for.
Well, what I need to do is start taking like the corner boxes or partner lines, stuff that I have on index cards, and then play with it on Tamination so that I start it with it just being words, but I need to visualize it in my head.
Yep.
You know, I missed out on that compartment because I was thinking one way and you guys were doing the guy's way. So I need to.
But it is one thing I would like you to practice on is just working, take a step back from just writing module after module after module after module. Take a step back from that and just say, here's the setup. Now I'm going to do a snapshot, isolated site, 2-couple calling. Get to a corner line, isolated site, 2-couple calling, right and left through, slide through, I'm out. Start doing that where you don't have to think about it. When you turn the terminations all black, take all the colors off, take all the numbers off. You know how to get to a corner box, then just call. Turn the numbers on. Play with that. Turn all the numbers off. Get to a corner box, color 2 dancers or 4 dancers on one side, 1 blue, 1 pink, or whatever. Do your isolated site, then turn the numbers on and see where you're at. Start practicing those little things because, as I said, your modular skills are there, your understanding of the mechanics there, but you've got to now let go of that crutch and push yourself just a little bit at a time into the next step because you are there. You've got the skill.
I can dance it. I have to now be able to do it with the checkers.
Yep, you've got the skill. You've just got to let go of the safety net.
And find and make the time, not find the time, but make the time to practice.
Make the time. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about, present? No.
Does anybody have favorite modules that really flow well? Pick your own time.
Well, 10,000 of them.
I think I was just about to say, I think you and Bob and probably Chris as well are, and well, definitely Mickey, are going to be there for the next 37 hours and that should take you to about 2%.
I just said their favorite. I didn't say all of them. I said their favorite, the one that they use
They're all
the
my
most.
favorite. If they flow, they're a favorite.
Yes, that's what I figured. Right? Because one of the things they're supposed to be working on is flow modules. Because I can play with them on terminations, but then I talk about it to somebody else and they say, oh, actually.
Like last night, I spent a couple tips just on turn through and courtesy turn.
And turn and left through.
Yeah, until that they could do it smooth and comfortably.
Mark, is that from a corner box?
What?
Is what from a corner box? It starts out head through.
Yeah, so from a corner box. Yes, okay.
Yeah. That's one I've used that a few times with my handy capable class. And they seem to do it pretty well.
Okay, so now everybody wants to know what it is that you're talking about. At least I am.
Just some basic calls. A lot of what we were talking about tonight, kind of.
Okay.
Only I don't think I'm using the couples circulate the way he was talking about or where he was talking about.
You're doing exactly the same thing. You're setting up with the swing through, boys trade, boys run. You're just doing a couple circulate twice, bend the line. It's exactly the same thing. The other than you're not inverting, you're just rotating. That's all that is. Okay. Do you mind if I share this, Mark?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So what Mark was asking is he uses this with his handy capables. He uses the invert and rotate module a fair bit.
You're not sharing.
No, I was just sharing the discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so it'll set up a corner box and call star through, pass through, bend the line, star through. Okay, that takes us to another corner box.
Okay, just slow
And
down
then-
enough that I can write it. Well, actually, I'm recording it, I guess.
Okay, so setting up a corner box
Yeah.
and then calling the invert and rotate module. Star through, pass through, bend the line, star through.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say, Mark, is if you're going to use a square through, okay, because you're coming off a right hand free, if your first movement is a star through, your right hand is free, you're causing the ladies to switch from the right hand to the left hand.
So
Do your
change it to a
dancers dance slide through?
No.
Okay, then that's fine. Give them a gap, and for your group.
With my handy capables, there's a lot of gaps. We're always
Yeah, no,
waiting for
no,
somebody to
I
get
understand
there.
that, and that's what I'm saying. Give them that, so there's not a problem there. That's an adjustment you make for your handy capable dancers. Star through, pass through, bend the line. Okay, now from there you can just go pass through or Alaman left, or your star through, pause, Alaman left for them. If they don't do a slide through, then that's fine. They're going to adjust to that, and they're going to be fine with that. If you do a star through, swing through, again, you're in that same problem with the right hand to right hand. So are any of them in wheelchairs?
No.
No? Okay. Mobility issue with walkers or crutches?
No, but well, some of them walk kind of slow. And then I have a couple of them that are only have, I have one boy that only has a right arm and one boy that only has a left arm.
Okay. So
we do
if
a
you
lot of
want-
touching shoulders.
Yep. If you wanted to get rid of that right hand to right hand, which would become awkward in those situations, you can do a pass through, face your partner, or pass through, boy face right, girl face left, instead of doing the star through. And that'll allow those hands to be free for that swing through, especially if you have to do the shoulder or you don't have an actual hand, a physical hand there. Because you're already building the pauses into the dance. Swing through, boys run, couples circulate. Yep. Okay, that's what we're saying. That's a rotate. It's not invert because we don't have that corner there. Circulate twice, we're not doing anything. Ferris wheel, centers pass through. That's back to our corner box. Star through, pass through, bend the line, star through. That's the invert and rotate module again. Alaman left, right and left grand. Not a problem with that. That last star through, after the bend the line, you can also call pass through, there's the corner, Alaman left. That way that's not a sharp turn. Pass through to the corner, Alaman left, they'll blend that into the Alaman left and they may find it a little more comfortable.
Okay. I will try it next Saturday.
Yep, no problem with that whatsoever. Build the pauses in. You want to try and minimize those right hand to right hand stuff, especially in your situation where
That's where I have a problem is I'm used to I don't have to build any pauses in for my candy capables. They're there. And then when I get to go call it the guest tip, these are the kind of things that I stick in my head and I do something at a normal dance. And it's just one thing I have learned to do is I don't call, if I do a guest tip somewhere, I don't call stars through. I just call slide through.
That's fine.
And that fixes a lot of my problems.
Sometimes star through is a good call, especially if you're stacking like star through, slide through, star through, star through, slide through, swing through, depending on where you're at. And if you're aware of that, that's fine. But for a group, especially those that are missing an arm, missing an appendage, try and minimize that right hand to right hand, especially if you've only got one right hand there, one left hand there.
They don't want me to.
No, I'm just saying you're not changing them. You're not treating them any different. What you are doing though is giving them just that little bit better flow for reaction.
Yeah, they've learned how to do Everybody else has learned how to do the shoulder touches.
Yep.
And the boys that are missing the arms, they know to stick their shoulder up.
Yep. And that's what I'm saying, because if they're sticking their shoulder up for a square through and they're coming off a square through, they have to go like this, shoulder up, shoulder up.
Yep.
Okay. If you build in that flow, you're going to find it a little easier for them and probably a little easier for you to recognize it. And they'll adapt to it a lot quicker. You know, instead of square through, star through, square through, pass through, all face in. Boom, you've done exactly the same thing.
Okie doke. That's all I got.
Beauty. Anybody else?
Aye.
All right, we shall see you then in a couple of weeks. For those of you that come back, and for those of you that don't, I hope you have a great Color Lab convention if you're going. If not, I hope you have a good 2-week holiday and happy Easter to everybody. Don't spoil yourselves too much on chocolate or you're going to end up like me and all your clothes will shrink. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
All righty.
See you all
Bye.
Mark, I'll send you the updated slides and stuff.
Mel,
Yes.
the clothes doesn't really shrink or you gain. It's those little beasts at night when they start knitting and making it smaller.
No. I moved from the mountains where we didn't have